go ahead, take a deep breath, pull it in, hold, and let it out. You're here today to develop and strengthen your mindset because you know that weekly training sessions in mindfulness is the missing link the world is searching for when it comes to business success. So set aside the external logistical side of business growth and come with me now to a world of focus, purpose, calm, confidence, and personal power using NLP and CBT tools and techniques. I am your host, Leah Marie, and you're listening to Flip the Switch. Okay, my friends, I am so excited to dive right into this episode topic of why we do what we do. I mean, really, haven't you wondered why the heck you do what you do, or even more so, why other people do what they do? But before we do that, let's just take a second to recognize how amazing technology is, that you now have instant access to the tools and strategies and techniques, kind of a backstage pass with the mindset mastery practices that could change your business forever. And they're all there, just waiting to be implemented. This is so exciting to me. So I wanted to choose this eye-opening topic to start off Flip the Switch because it is foundational. It is all built around the personal power that has been held out of reach for so many entrepreneurs and has just been waiting to be unleashed. So I'm so excited to bring this episode to you to really help you understand and gain a new knowledge of some of the systems of our mind and just the subtle nuances and the little pieces that, when brought to awareness, bring such crazy shifts in your life and in your business and in all of that. So I'm going to share with you how our states, our behaviors, and our emotions are currently running our life, and how you can start to shift the way that you think and interact with these systems to actually recreate new powerful outcomes where you're the one in the driver's seat. Sound great? Good. I'm going to actually share something as well at the end of this episode that will very likely change the way that you view and accept information going forward. And this could likely result in a new awareness that has never ever been before experienced by you. Now, this may seem random, but I promise it actually fits. Have you ever been to the zoo or a circus and wondered how the elephants can be so massive and powerful and yet be controlled by this small human who is significantly pathetic in size and strength in comparison? Well, you're not alone. Stay with me right to the end of this episode, and I promise all of this can be made clear. Now, here's a fair warning. None of this stuff is taught in school, and majority of the homes out there are also not teaching this. And so unless you've been inside of a psychology class or have trained in the behavioral sciences, this is possibly going to be very new information for you. We're going to jump right into the good stuff. So stay with me because I know that you're going to do great. Now, before we can, as entrepreneurs, create an impact out there in the world, first, we need to understand what's going on inside us, right? So this is stuff that they really just don't teach in school or in the majority of our homes out there. Unless you've been taking psychology or you are studying the behavioral sciences, this is going to be new information. But I know you're going to do great, so let's get started. Did you know that it's through the nervous system and neurology that our information is received in massive amounts of data every second of every day? And that how we process the data is actually determined and creates our state of being, our emotions, and in turn, our behaviors? Let me explain. We start with some sort of like an event or an experience happening around us. And in order to experience this event, we bring in data and collect data through our 5 senses. So whatever we're seeing, hearing, smelling, what we feel, like with our touch, and what we can taste. And as this information comes in, we then filter it unconsciously. Now, it's interesting to consider that The information as it is coming in is going to be collected in different amounts depending on where we're at in our state when we're in the experience. So take that into consideration, is that we may bring in more through our sight and our sound, or what we're hearing, than we will in our sense of taste or smell. However, if our experience was not at a concert and we were at a restaurant, it might be more about our taste and our smell. Does that make sense? Okay. So essentially what happens is this data is collected through our five senses, and then it gets filtered as it hits our neurology, and it is filtered through our beliefs, our memories, our values, our attitudes, our programming and identity, and more. Now, as the filtering process actually happens, we are unconsciously comparing this new information against our current or old information that we already have stored as well. So what is happening that is super fascinating is that our unconscious minds will actually distort, delete, and generalize the information, removing anything that does not align with our current beliefs, values, goals, and the memories. So this makes up our identity and what is considered true or plausible based on our views and experiences thus far in our life. So this new data then becomes our personal representation of the event. So here's a quick example to help you understand this. When I was creating the album cover for this podcast, my initial album cover was actually a photo of me standing next to the train tracks. Well, let's be honest, I was on the train tracks, and that's actually part of this. So I'm standing on the train tracks, and in the image, you can see that I'm walking away from the camera and the tracks split in front of me. Now, when I chose this picture, I thought this is perfect for Flip the Switch because it has all the symbolism and it's so juicy in the sense that people are going to be able to see that, a small movement, like on a train track, when they flip the switch from one track to another, it's that little piece of iron, like not even, I don't know, maybe 6 inches long or maybe 12 inches long, that they shift over, and it takes that train from the train yard all the way to a completely different destination, hundreds of thousands of miles away from where it otherwise could have landed had it stayed on that original track. And I thought, oh, the symbolism is so rich. This is so perfect for my podcast. So I got the image out there and I started to ask people, okay, what do you guys think? And I was all excited about it. And you wouldn't believe the response that I got. I got people that were concerned about the fact that I was on the tracks. And I got people that were talking about, well, you have your back turned to me. And so I feel like that's your attitude and it's cold. And then I've got somebody else saying, well, it looks like you're trying to decide which direction to take in your life. And then it goes on and on. And so I was fascinated by this information and I was just eating it up because I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly the perfect living example of how each of our own realities and experiences in life have been developed based upon all of our experiences up to this point. And so the information when we're looking at this photo is based off of everything leading up to that point. And each of us have had different experiences, and so we see something different. So this is really actually quite exciting because what happens then is that after this information has come in and it has been filtered, we go and actually create that personal representation. Now, the way we create that personal representation is that we categorize it with symbols and with labels dependent upon where it belongs. And we decide where it belongs because of the meaning that we attach to the event or experience. So whether it's a positive one, whether it's a negative one, and the higher the emotional experience in that event is also taken into consideration as to where it is going to be stored for future reference. Now, I want to take a second just to help you guys recognize how much information is actually deleted and how much we have left over to work with. So recently there was science done around the fact that they are guesstimating that we have approximately 2 billion segmented or pieces of data coming in every second into our mind and hitting that neurology. Okay. Now, the amount that we are actually having on the opposite side of the filtering system that we're keeping, that we feel is relevant to our personal goals and representations at that moment, is only 134 bits of data. So if we were to look at this and try and put an image to it, the way that it was explained in school, which was really neat, there was 2 different explanations, and I'm going to give you both of them because we all learn differently. So one was that you're looking at a picture, and let's say that the picture is a canoe and it's a person on the lake and there's grass around it and the sun and the mountains and there's a bird in the picture, and you know what I mean, okay? So you're seeing all of this. And what would happen if you were to pixelate it down so that you removed all of the pixels except for 134 of them? That picture would be majority black. You wouldn't even be able to tell what it was before. And that's basically what you're left over with when it comes to trying to create a personal representation of that original experience. Now, here's another one. If you took 134 pages of paper and you put them together in a little stack and you stacked them next to Mount Kilimanjaro, okay, the amount of papers that would make up the height of Mount Kilimanjaro would be the amount of data that would be lost, and you would have the 134 pages. Insane, right? So all of us human beings are left with these tiny little bits and pieces of data, and from those pieces of data, what we do is we create our own internal representation, as I mentioned before. Now, what's even crazier is that our subconscious or our unconscious will actually even make stuff up to fill in little gaps to make that experience make sense and be relevant for us at that moment in our life. So crazy. It's just crazy. I love it. I could just geek out on this all day, but I'm not going to put you through that. What we're going to do is we're actually going to step out of the science for a few minutes, and we're going to look at what does this mean as an entrepreneur? What do we do with the fact that not only us, but our team or our clients or our customers are coming around with information that we're trying to give them about the products or the services that we have, or maybe the experience we have in a program that we're learning, and the fact that of all the information we're giving them, they're going to get a very, very tiny piece of it, and then they're going to create their own meaning about that. So some of the ways that this kind of comes up in our lives and shows up is in lack of awareness, in time management issues, in prioritization, in work-life balance, client work versus personal goals. How do we deal with that when we're scaling? How do we create the right boundaries? We have self-sabotage issues. We have money blocks where we're hitting the glass ceiling. We have fear of success. We have fear of failure. We have imposter syndrome. The list goes on and on and on. Am I right? For those who are enrolled in my group coaching of Master Reset, or for those that are in my one-on-one coaching programs, they know that we discuss this a lot deeper and with the depth and the detail, like how it affects and applies to their businesses personally. But for here and now, we really don't have the time to get into all of that. So what we're going to do is just look a little bit deeper into just the first one that I mentioned on the list, which is lack of awareness. Because as entrepreneurs, we know that this is a huge stumbling block to creating the perfect clients. And yes, I did say creating, not acquiring or attracting, but okay, that's for another episode. So the question is, how does the way that we take in data, distort, delete, and generalize affect how we show up as entrepreneurs? How are my current beliefs controlling my behaviors and showing up in my results? Something that would definitely be a good question to journal over after this episode. So I hope that you do that. Now, one of the things that we want to consider is, what are our goals? Like, what are our dreams? What are we really, really wanting out of our success and that we're looking for. What we want is we want to be in control of our outcomes, right? Not some system that is running old data in our brain that is no longer even valid this time or this season in our life, right? And so for this reason, one of the things that I see inside of my clients is that we end up having these old systems running that served us when we were like 7 years old or 10 years old, or we were in college or university. And so we're actually still running the exact same system. And the system that we ran worked great and was perfect for when we were on the playground or when we were in university and college, but it really is not serving us or helping us whatsoever at this point in our business career. And that is why we end up kind of having those plateaus or being stuck. It's because what got us here is not going to be what gets us to the next level. And I think that I can speak for all of us when I say we do not want to leave life to chance and end up with that default future, right? I mean, that's why we're being entrepreneurs, so that we can take hold of our future. We want to live our lives of impact and value, right? Full of wonderful memories with loved ones and really have that life of purpose. So, what are some of the failures and the mistakes that people are making that keep them stuck? Thinking processes, thinking like this is just the way that I am, okay? Believing that old views instinctively are just in place instead of challenging the validity when the opportunity presents itself. Kind of when you're stuck, right? Like that's a great opportunity to say, wow, wait a second, I'm stuck. What got me here? Why am I here? And okay, the things that I think are happening, are they even real? I mean, now that I know that the majority of the information that I've collected to make this decision off of is actually distorted information, how much can this help me in this exact moment, right? Also, something else that happens is sometimes we get stuck in these cycles of like a shame and blame game where we're feeling shame and it's all our fault and we should know better and all of that stuff, or we're blaming somebody else. Here's the thing, we're humans. And it's perfectly natural and normal to hold to our evidence rather than question our own memories. And, let's be honest, it's not really comfortable to be questioning ourselves all the time, right? So, what is it that we do when this happens? Where do we start? And how do we know if we're even facing a limiting belief? Do you remember at the beginning where I said that we were going to talk about elephants? So here's the story. A few years back, I was in Africa on a humanitarian project. As part of the experience, I had the opportunity to go on a safari. So I'm in the van and I'm looking out and this huge bull elephant is coming across the safari plains and he's sloshing through the water. And this guy is massive. I mean, just enormous. And it was amazing to be able to watch him because the majesty and the power of this elephant. He just had this knowing of who he was, if that makes sense. So when I got home, I looked up how they train elephants that are in captivity. And I found out that when the elephants are babies, they chain them with a large chain around one of their feet to be able to teach them that basically they can't get away, right? And so the elephants will pull against it and they'll create a boundary line around like a stake in the ground with the chain to realize, okay, this is as far as my chain will allow me to go. Now, what will happen is that as this elephant creates an understanding and a knowledge and a belief that that is their boundary line and that is as far as they can go, the people can actually switch up the chain for a tiny rope that they can just put on the elephant. So the elephant then no longer starts pushing against the chain, but it feels as soon as the rope goes taut, it's like, okay, this is as far as I can go. So this is the crazy part though, is that this mindset stays with the elephant all the way through to its adulthood. So literally, it used to be a tiny little elephant and now it's a massive elephant, thousands of pounds, and yet it stays put because it believes that that is its boundary and that is as far as it can go and that it really can't accomplish much more outside of that. So it is not going to push through that boundary. It is going to go to the end of the line, and that's where it's going to stay. And I realized this, and I thought about this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy, because we do this as people. I see this with my coaching clients. We hold on to old belief patterns because the evidence taught us that that was what we could do. Isn't that crazy? How often have you accepted a label that somebody else put on you as being true and then just lived into that space? Or maybe even created one of your own. The number one thing here to recognize is that you have the power within you to change the meaning or remove completely the beliefs that limit or hold you back in business and in life. The beliefs and labels that others or the world or even yourself have placed in your realm of reality that you have chosen to accept as truth. You may be wondering, okay, what's the plan? The plan is to take the first step, which is awareness. So what I want you to do this week is take note of what thoughts you think, the reactions you have to other people's thoughts, and I want you to do this with curiosity. Remove all judgment, because like I said before, we're only human and we're working with the best that we've got, right? So we're going to come up with curiosity and say, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that thought came up when this person responded that way. Or that's interesting. I wonder why I am totally craving chocolate and yet I can't stop myself from eating it. Okay, so we're going to come with some curiosity. And what I want you to do is, as you're doing that, consider, is this thought that I'm having, is it serving me? And is it going to expand upon my mission and my vision for me as an entrepreneur? What this is actually allowing you to personally do, and what this means, is that you have 100% power to create a future for yourself that will not only lead you to your goals, but allow you to serve your clients and your customers more powerfully than ever before. Imagine the results that will come from consistent, powerful service. And it all starts with awareness, so that you can start to see which bits and pieces, which ingredients, okay, of the original experience need to be switched up so that we can create a new representation so that you can then move forward. I'd like you to just consider the impact for a moment and the ripple effect that will flow from that, the lives that will change, and consider for just a moment what you will see, what you will hear, and what you will feel when you're leading your business from such a place of personal awareness that reflects inside of your service. We have covered a ton of content today, so let me just recap. We do what we do based on the data that has been collected, deleted, distorted, and matches our current beliefs, values, memories, attitudes, programming, and identity. So from this, we internalize the experience we're having as new data or evidence that continues to support our beliefs, values, and so on, which is all well and fine until what once worked before is no longer working for us and we feel stuck. We're not having the business growth that we expected. Our clients or our customers aren't responding the way we thought they would. We're struggling to understand why our wheels are spinning and why we can't get traction. Well, other entrepreneurs in the same industry with maybe the same or similar training and background and products and services are rock stars. We try to make changes, but either fall back into old habits, we sabotage our efforts, like discounting our products or services to the point of feeling resentment towards our customers, or we start to stress out, questioning what right we have to even play big or play in the big leagues, right? So all of this comes down to the fact that today we learned that all of this is okay, and that we can actually change our current situation and future by looking at the thought loops we have running and challenging them to verify if they are serving us here and now in our business growth. So we consider how we are like the elephant, caught up in limiting beliefs at times. And we learned the first step is awareness, not non-judgmental curiosity, a watching, if you will, of our lives to determine why we did what we did in that moment and what was the result because of it. Finally, we looked at how, if you as an entrepreneur were to take responsibility for your part in creating your experiences and choose to create shifts around those limiting beliefs, what massive impact would follow transforming your business, your impact, and your legacy. And that wraps up our recap. Quickly, before we end, just a little note. In next week's episode, we will look deeper into how limiting thought systems show up in a variety of ways, but no matter the variety, the antidote is the same. I'm so excited for your success. The fact that you are listening to this podcast means you're already on your way to greater success, being one of the smart ones who is taking their future into their own hands. Now remember, taking immediate action on things you have learned today will increase your success. So, first, if you have found value in today's podcast, share this episode with an entrepreneur who came into mind as you listened and experienced new insights, knowing this content would make the difference in their career journey too. Second, bring in awareness and ask yourself the hard questions. How are my current beliefs controlling my behaviors and showing up in my results? I want to sincerely thank you and appreciate you today for showing up here on Flip the Switch. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a training session in your mindset mastery, leveling up your business success. And be a good friend. Share this episode with a fellow business builder. I'll see you next week, same time, same place.